Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Up first here, this is a webcam shot from Glen Alps parking lot. Snowing there, obviously, maybe half an inch or so in the parking lot there. And out to the west, can't see Anchorage because of all the snow falling, especially across the east side of the city. And so that area of snow pushed a lot farther to the west and north than I thought it was going to yesterday. Hazardous weather graphic. Still have that high surf advisory out for St. Lawrence Island here up to the Bering Strait for 35, 45 mile per hour winds continuing as they did today through tonight. And then this advisory ends at 6 a.m. So it could be some minor beach erosion there as surf washes up to the top of the beach. And moving on to satellite imagery, excuse me, you can see low pressure circulating here, center both at the surface and aloft, pulling a lot of cold air down out of the Russian Far East and from the Arctic, and that's just picking up a lot of moisture over the warmer water. And lots of snow showers back through here, snow all day with those gusty winds, St. Lawrence Island up into the Bering Strait areas. Much more showery here across the Pribilof Islands. But that cold air has pushed actually south of the Aleutians all the way off the chart there, off the picture. And rain and snow showers falling today over the Aleutian chain, mostly snow showers there around Unalaska. And also the Alaska Peninsula on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. You can see much nicer conditions on the lee side of the terrain there. Kodiak Island looking really good, although some clouds gathering just to the west and southwest. Area clearing right through here from Iliamna, Kachemak Bay, actually Kodiak there, right on up into the southwest interior. And then here's that moisture that's bringing the snow into western Prince William Sound, areas of the Kenai Peninsula, down Turnagain Arm, right into the Anchorage area. Not so much fallen by mid-afternoon up toward Palmer, Wasilla, and those areas, but there is showers developing, snow showers along the Alaska Range in this area of moisture that appears to be developing, and that'll be breaking off and sliding northward. Pretty good storm here rolling up off the southeast coast. You can see by that spiral appearance of the cloud band there. That brought gale and storm force winds, Cape Decision, east winds gusting up to 70 miles per hour or so ahead of that front, and gusting up 40 to 50 at Cape Decision had the 70 mile an hour gusts. Cape Spencer had about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Rainfall amounts not too heavy, about anywhere from a third of an inch falling to a half an inch, say around Craig and the other locations to the south. Sitka picking up about a quarter of an inch, and then lighter amounts up to the north. Actually nothing yet up to the north. Pretty dry Yakutat. Snow showers pick up here in the eastern, central North Gulf Coast areas, and of course into Prince William Sound there on over into northern Cook Inlet, and that's starting to be on the increase there through the valley all the way up to the Alaska Range. Back to the west, we've got this low center sitting right underneath the upper level feature. And again, that gradient between the Arctic high over the Russian Far East and this low, strong northerly flow right down from the Arctic Ocean there all the way to and south and beyond the Aleutians. Again, the rain and snow showers behind this trough falling from Nikolsky, as I mentioned, all the way out to Attu Island, and snow showers for Dutch Harbor and Unalaska right up the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. Much more numerous up here along the coast, and just catching the Pribilofs there. More of a steady snow with those gusty winds there. Some of that drifting St. Lawrence Island, up to the western Seward Peninsula, over to about Shishmaref, up to the north there, a weak low off the western Arctic coast. A few skiffs of snow occurring there from Wainwright on down to Point Ley and Cape Lisburne. Otherwise, cooling temperatures today. Barrow went from 23 degrees at about 5 a.m. and they fell to 1 degree below zero at noon today as that wind flow turned southerly there. So pretty dry on the east side, except for some persistent light snow around Kaktovik. And for tonight, we'll see that storm moves on in and weakens considerably here. Left with a low off the coast. That'll keep showers going, but definitely the winds coming down and the rain changing to showers. Actually getting pretty scattered after midnight. Dry for the North Gulf Coast. This area of moisture now lifting north. So later this evening, snow should end over northern Cook Inlet. Look for some clearing down to the south. Kenai Peninsula back up into the Kuskokwim Valley areas. And so the snow will move into the central interior and western Tanana Valley. Otherwise, mostly fair. Brooks Range to the north slope. And temperatures again falling to near minus 20 in the clear, calm areas tonight. Still some flurries possible eastern Beaufort Sea coast, especially east of Dead Horse on over to Kaktovik and Barter Island. Good northerly flow continues here. Very cold air picking up lots of moisture, so almost a solid area of light snow and snow showers here from the central Bering all the way down to the Aleutians. Freezing levels close to sea level there, so definitely be in the form of snow all the way down to the water. Same thing for the eastern Aleutians, a little more showery. No change for the Alaska Peninsula. And some moisture circulating around brings some snow into Kuskokwim Bay, Togiak Bay, on into Bristol Bay. And then it'll get backed up along the mountains there of the Aleutian Range. Risk of a snow shower down toward Akiak, Kodiak, otherwise dry to the north. And for the outlook for tomorrow, Sunday's forecast, another trough here. That low pulls northward. This trough swings in, so look for an increase in the showers again during the late morning into the afternoon here for the Panhandle. Otherwise, not too bad here. North Gulf Coast should become variably cloudy over south central Alaska again. And up into the interior, that area light snow edging its way northward into the northern Koyukuk Valley, westward on out to, say Selawik, definitely the Kobuk Valley. Kind of a narrow band here, but there'll be some light snow and I'll be pressing up toward the southern slopes of the Brooks Range during the afternoon. Few flurries possible, mainly the central Arctic coastal areas, western north slope. Not much change out here over the Bering Sea except for the gradient pushing westward there a little bit as this trough pushes east. So light snow will continue, St. Lawrence Island, the Bering Strait, but winds will be much lighter and just looking 10 to 20, 15 miles an hour for the Pribilof snow showers. Areas of snow continue here over Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula. And the outlook for Monday, big storm moves into the far western, actually out there beyond just off Kamchatka, and the strong front moves into the western Bering and far western Aleutians with probably gale, storm, and possible hurricane force winds associated with that. And that's going to move quite rapidly to the east with a deep center moving into the western Aleutians. So quite a stormy pattern coming up for the first of the week here, especially Monday night and Tuesday. That'll be advancing eastward. And another system here pushing up into the northern Panhandle. So another round of wind and rain for the southeast coast. Cold, high pressure over the central and eastern interior. Still some lingering snow showers in the west. Low temperatures forecast tonight, 0 to 15, maybe 20 below here over the North Slope, Brooks Range area, and then into the lower 20s along the southwest coast, mid-30s to lower 40s for the Panhandle, and lower 30s for the Aleutians. Highs for tomorrow, generally above zero most areas, or 0 to 10 above North Slope, Eastern Brooks Range. Quite a range there along the Arctic coast, depending on which way the wind's blowing. Mid-teens to lower 20s, and we've got lower to mid-30s here, Bristol Bay, southwest interior, teens and 20s inland, and the Panhandle, mid-40s. For the lows Sunday morning, we've got upper 30s to lower 40s here for the southeast coast, and looks like mid to upper 20s for For south central Alaska, teens Copper River Basin, signal numbers Tanana Valley, below zero a little bit upper Yukon Valley to the Brooks Range, and teens along the Arctic coast, 20s for the southwest coast, mostly in the upper 30s for the Aleutians. And then for outlook for Monday, warming out here, back into the lower to mid 40s for the Aleutians, and upper 30s to mid 40s Alaska Peninsula, lower 40s Kodiak. No change up here from the Brooks Range. On out to the Arctic coast, they're about the same pattern as you'll see tomorrow. Lower to mid 30s south central Alaska, mid to upper 40s for the Panhandle. After the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving into flying weather, VFR all the way up to the Arctic coast there. Could be some marginal VFR kind of hanging on the east side. Otherwise, some more here over the northeast interior, and other surge of moisture moving some marginal VFR into northeast Bristol Bay. As far east as Kachemak Bay and Chillicothe Strait. Not too bad out to the west, just a few areas of marginal out there. Southern southeast coast, marginal VFR kind of working northward there over toward the border. For tomorrow afternoon, marginal VFR now, say roughly from around Point Lay or so, across the north slope, central and eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. VFR, much of the northern interior, southward into the Gulf of Alaska. Got some IFR now slipping on up just east of Kodiak there to the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula. Marginal VFR into most of Cook Inlet, across the northern Kuskokwim Valley, all of the Alaska Range down into northeast Bristol Bay. Improving over the Panhandle. Out west, not a lot. See some IFR showing up there around Shimei and Attu. And then for Monday afternoon, that makes a pretty good advance eastward here. All the way to just west of Adak, marginal VFR to Atka, otherwise VFR, eastern Aleutians, Pribilofs, all the way up to St. Lawrence Island, Bristol Bay, marginal VFR, western Prince William Sound, south coast of the Kenai Peninsula, southeast side, parts of the western Alaska Range, Norton Sound and Nulato Hills, central Arctic coast, everywhere else looking really good except for the Panhandle, IFR in the north, IFR in the south, otherwise marginal VFR. For the passes, Anatuvik, VFR possibly becoming marginal on the southern entrance, band of moisture shifting northward, may knock it down to marginal VFR late in the day. Same forecast for Adigan, and for Lake Clark and Merrill, occasionally possibly marginal VFR at times, otherwise rainy will be VFR. And windy, same forecast, good VFR for Windy, and Isabel and Mentasta both VFR, with Tanita looking VFR as well. And for Portage, VFR, Chilkoot and White, VFR. Could be some clouds, maybe a few showers around, but those will be the VFR variety. And for the freezing levels, 2,000 feet up to the northern part of the Panhandle there, roughly around Lynn Canal Glacier Bay. Otherwise at the surface here, back along the North Gulf Coast, Bristol Bay, up along the southwest coast now, kind of moving back to the north a little bit here. Otherwise 2,000 feet way on down south, well south of the Aleutians. And then we've got 4,000 feet nudging northward there across Dixon Entrance into the southern southeast coast. As far as the icing threat tomorrow, across the Panhandle here, from about Yakutat on down, not so much there over the Dixon Entrance area. Could be some areas of light to isolated moderate rime icing above 4,000 feet there. This band of moisture slowly lifting northward. Could be some light, maybe mixed icing. Really not that big of a threat up in that area. And then kind of a widespread area, really areas of icing of the mixed variety here. Aleutians to the Fox Islands, Dutch Harbor area, and the Pribilofs there. Dry, no icing expected over the remainder of the interior. And the jet stream, cold, large upper level low here. That's about as far south as it's going to get on the west side, well to the west, very strong jet, northwest, 160 knots, western Aleutians. Picks up about 190 knots, but that's well to the south. And you can see cutting in well to the south of the Panhandle. So moving on to the 9,000 foot wind flow chart. Southwest 20 to 25 here into the southeast coast, and otherwise lighter, 10 to 15 knots for the North Gulf Coast, maybe up to 20 across the Barren Islands, 25 knots Alaska Peninsula, falling back to 20 in the west. Southerlies to southeast, 10 to 15, maybe as high as 20 knots. Easterlies 15 for the Arctic coast, and northerlies up to 35 for the Aleutians. 3,000 feet, strongest winds now shifting westward. Could still see some 20 knotters there, western St. Lawrence Island. 20 to 25 knots down along the Aleutians, 15 to 20 the peninsula, 5 to 10 mainly out of the south over the interior. Shade stronger for the panhandle. Turbulence, light to isolated moderate chop below 5,000 feet, southern southeast coast, as well as the Aleutians and St. Lawrence Island. About the same thing. Again, heavier turbulence will be back to the west and could be this isolated moderate for the Aleutians.
This message is in support of the 2005 NOAA Safe Sanctuaries exercise. This is only a drill.
Emergency responders continue to address environmental impacts
From the 800-foot container ship aground on Elbow Reef in the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary.
Every year, NOAA responds to thousands of natural and human-induced incidents threatening life, property, and natural resources. During such incidents, NOAA is mandated to protect natural resources, provide weather data, and chart navigable waterways. To better fulfill this mission, NOAA conducted the first Safe Sanctuaries exercise in April of 2005 to bring together NOAA resources and expertise with other agencies for a hypothetical oil spill in the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary.
Briefly, the situation is, as we know,
The planning unit calls in NOAA's Navigation Response Team. The reef bottom surrounding the wreck site is variable and difficult to navigate, especially for large vessels. So the Navigation Response Team uses a sophisticated side-scan sonar that creates real-time, high-resolution images of the sea floor. After mapping several transects, the strips are mosaicked together into a map. The map can then be coupled with marine charts and enables the planning unit to develop a salvage plan that will be the least disruptive to the sanctuary's sensitive environment. As information on the oil's fate becomes clearer, the Scientific Support Coordinator prepares shoreline characterization and assessment teams to evaluate shoreline impacts. These assessment teams include members from state and federal agencies and the responsible party, some of whom have never measured effects of an oil spill before. To standardize the assessment team efforts, NOAA runs training for the team members before they go into the field. Given the potential spill trajectories, the Scientific Support Coordinator deploys teams on 2 locations along Key Largo's eastern shore. They specifically record percent cover of oil on affected beaches and wildlife that has been oiled, such as seabirds or turtles. Returning to the command post, the assessment team leader presents the team findings to the environmental unit.
The northernmost area is where we saw the heaviest hit by oil, and it was along.
Also on scene is one of NOAA's Natural Resource Damage Assessment teams. This team collaborates with other groups from the Department of the Interior and State of Florida to work most effectively with the responsible party. This damage assessment team sends out assessment experts and sanctuary divers. They gather information on the natural and cultural resources that were harmed and at risk from the ship grounding and oil spill. Historical and cultural resources impart important knowledge of maritime history in the region. In this incident, the Portsmouth trader ran aground on a 1917 wreck, the City of Washington.
Due to the oil spill, we were only able to assess the injury to the anchor damage that occurred, and we found 2 anchor scars.
A marine archaeologist from the sanctuary evaluates the injury to the City of Washington, as it represents a significant historic site and is listed on the Florida Keys Shipwreck Trail. Using information provided by the Navigation Response and Damage Assessment teams, the Unified Command develops the best strategy to extricate the trader and avoid further injury to both the reef and the historical wreck. The Portsmouth Trader exercise also provides an important opportunity for NOAA to evaluate and improve its response and safety procedures. To check the accuracy of the oil trajectory model and provide another set of observations to understand surface currents in the Florida Keys, 2,000 wooden drift cards were released near the grounding site. The reef structure, tidal currents, Gulf Stream, and winds make this area tricky to predict currents. And over the next 2 days, oceanographers monitor the drift card movement. In this case, these biodegradable cards move straight into the mangroves along Key Largo's eastern shore, confirming the trajectory model outputs created earlier in the response.
The public is reminded to avoid touching the oiled areas or wildlife due to human health concerns and possible wildlife injury.
Throughout a spill response, public safety is also a key concern. NOAA sends out an all-hazards radio broadcast, warning people of natural and man-made disasters. The Safe Sanctuaries exercise and real groundings like it represent continuing risks to our coral reefs, shorelines, and marine resources. NOAA recognizes these threats and continually develops and tests effective response plans to protect life, commerce, and our natural and cultural resources.
It's never going to come out good. I mean, it's always bad because somebody loses, but it can come out better if everybody's working together. If you got a cooperative RP, if you got, the Coast Guard is being able to play the role they need to play, if all the state agencies and the local communities are able to play the roles they can play. And NOAA gets to play the role we can play, then you bring everything together, people cooperate, and it'll come out less bad than it could otherwise.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis for Saturday. This area here, actually clear picture today, so this is actually a narrow area of open water, but everything continuing to press southward, and that's going to continue for the next week, come southward here at a fairly good rate, and still have the areas of increasing ice along the coast here, both in and outside the Barrier Islands, eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Moving on to the coastal water forecasts here for the southern southeast coast, west-southwest, 25 to 30 knots, sea 16 to 17 feet with the heaviest action down on the south coast. Small craft advisories for Clarence Strait. South 25 swinging around to the northeast at 20 for Stevens Passage, north 15, gust 35 though for northern Lynn Canal, and west at 10 become northwest 20 on the north coast. Outlook for Monday, south 20 knots now for northern Lynn Canal, 25 knots out of the south, so small craft advisories there for Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait with 5 to 6 foot seas. South 30 knots there, but seas almost 20 feet in the south coast, 18 feet here on the central coast, falling back to 25 and 12 there, and even lighter up to the northwest. South central Alaska, Prince William Sound, northwest 15, those turn westerly at 15 here into the North Gulf Coast, picking up to 20 knots and back down to 15 for the Barren Islands. Real light winds Kachemak Bay in the forecast tomorrow, west at 10, northwest 10 for Cook Inlet with 2 foot seas all the way down. And then for Monday, north 20 knots, northern Cook Inlet, and northeast 25 here for the areas south of the Forelands, becoming east at 30, blowing into Kachemak Bay with 9 foot seas. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands and the western North Gulf Coast. Northeast winds 20 knots, 5 foot seas for the central North Gulf Coast, and Prince William Sound mostly north at 15. And for Kodiak Island, east 20 knots tomorrow, southwest 15, Shelikof Strait, Sitkinak to about Castle Cape or so, south winds 25, 7 foot seas. West 20 here become northwest 15 on the south side of the peninsula, west 20 for Bristol Bay. And the outlook for Monday, swinging around to the south and southeast here across Kodiak Island, 25 to 30 knots, seas 6 feet, Shelikof Strait to 11 feet. On the Pacific side, westerlies 15 knots here for the Alaska Peninsula, and southwest 15 here for the Bering Sea side on up into Bristol Bay, 5 to 7 foot seas. Out in the Aleutians, lightest here over Unalaska Island, northwest 15 to 20, 7 to 5 foot seas. Small craft advisories there from roughly Nikolsky all the way out to the end of the chain there where they're 30 knots and seas running 10 to 13 feet. Next day, big storm coming in, front storm force winds cover the western Aleutians. Gales advancing eastward to just west of Adak by late in the afternoon, west 20 for the central Aleutians, 15 knot northwesterlies for the Fox Islands. Southwest coast, north turn west south of Nunivak Island, 20 knots for the Pribilofs, north 30 still, St. Matthew Island. Winds coming down to 25 there for St. Lawrence Island. And the next day, even lighter, light easterly winds 15 there, northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, St. Matthew, north 20, northwest 20 for the Pribilofs, and about 15 knots along the southwest coast. And from Wales northward there to Cape Beaufort, east 15, actually east winds, much of the coastline falling back to 10 knots on the central coast and then picking up back up to 15 toward demarcation point. And then for Monday, really light winds back around to the south, much like today, south to southwest at 10 here on the east side. No wind for the central coast. Seas still 3 feet though, southeast 10, pick up to 15 from Cape Beaufort all the way down to the Bering Strait coast. And tonight again, area snow here, south central Alaska. It's going to be lifting northward, eventually tapering off in the Susitna Valley, pushing up in the central interior, clearing to the south, clearing to the north. This storm moves into Canada and weakens, showers tapering off along with the wind for the Panhandle, and snow here, Bristol Bay on up to Kuskokwim Bay, and no change out in the Bering Sea except probably looking at just plain snow showers for the Aleutians. And then tomorrow gets a little more mixed out there during the daytime, but light snow on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. And then the outlook, again, that big storm coming into the Bering Sea.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-REEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.